Okay, welcome to H3. I am the acapellist, and with me is Brother Scott Sweetman. Oh, thank you for joining us for another show. How are you doing tonight there, Brother Scott?
I am hot and sweaty. It was 29 plus today, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. Does the heat bother you?
Well, I do have a little bit of extra natural insulation that
You do.
becomes,
Fair
that
enough.
becomes problematic in the heat. But I've
Now, heat,
never been a big fan of heat.
never been a big fan of too much heat.
Even when I was skinny and in shape, I'm a northern lad. I like it. A fall is my season.
Well, I love the heat, although I don't think my bride always does because I just take off more and more clothes. And then at some point, it's like, please wear a shirt, wear some clothes, put some pants on. So, like, you'd think she'd just like be so excited that I'm wandering
It's
around naked. But no,
distracting, Al. She
yeah,
can't focus on her work.
exactly. She just keeps on following me around. No, that's not true. So,
That's why
anyway,
I like colder weather because you can always put on more clothes. But when it's
true.
hot, once you're down to skin, where do you go from there?
Well, there's no better place to be.
That's that's true. That's true. But the family, as you know, is in Nagoya, which is I think where they are, like subtropical, and they're 4 degrees cooler than we are.
Whew, really, eh? Wow.
Yeah. One of the twins is a lizard. Sabrina can never be hot enough for her. 40
Mm.
above and she's wearing a turtleneck. The other one, Kat, is like me. She's hot. If it's 4 above, she's like, oh boy, I'm not wearing a coat. It's too hot out here. So I
Interesting.
think I think it's a mental thing. I don't know.
Yeah, could very well be.
So
Well,
how are you?
tonight, Scott, you have a special program set for us. You've done some research on arthritis, and then we're going to be talking about well, I don't know what we're going to be talking about. You're leading the show, so tell me, what are we going to be talking about?
We're going to talk about a medical condition that affects 1 in 4 adults in North America.
1 in 4, that's the number for people who are suffering from arthritis?
Yes,
Really?
one
Wow.
in four in adults. And there's a
In adults.
special, yeah, there's a special type of arthritis for children or affecting children and adolescents. So that's not even included. This is just
Wow.
adults. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's an epidemic. That's huge, right?
It is. It is huge. It is.
And
Yeah.
I just made myself brighter.
Oh,
Blinding myself. I saw the light, Alan. It was right in my eyes.
nice.
I thought a train was coming for me. Yeah, but arthritis is a really serious thing. And do you have arthritis? I guess that's a personal question, but we ask all kinds of personal questions on our show.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure it was arthritis. I
Mhm.
used to have a lot of joint pain, which is generally how, where arthritis manifests, right? So I had pain in my shoulders and my elbows and my knees, and my hips. So I had, pain and restrictive movement in those parts of my body.
Check,
But
check, check. All symptoms of arthritis so far. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so, but I have kind of adopted some habits for me. I'm not saying this for everybody, but for me that have really helped that. And I'm moving a lot freer than I was, like, let's say 10 years ago, even, kind of a thing. So, yeah. So, no, I don't have any
You're
arthritis
the
now.
amazing backwards aging man. You're like Benjamin Button. Like you're just going backwards here.
I don't
And
know if I told you this, Scott, but I I think I have actually. I think my biological age is younger than.
you just went I just went mute on me, buddy. Stay with us, people. We're having some technical difficulty. It's not a surprise that things are not going exactly as planned on our show. It's kind of our trademark. It's our brand.
Okay, how about that?
Now you're loud and clear.
Okay.
4x4. Yeah.
I forget what I was. Oh, for my bride and I, we are doing this test where it tests your biological age, and it uses this methylation of your DNA. I don't understand even what that means, but basically you spit in a cup, you send it into them, they do a schwack of analysis, and then they come back and saying, hey, your chronological age is 65, but we've determined your biological age is whatever, 59 or whatever the thing is going to be, kind of a thing. So I'm looking forward to see what that comes out with, because I'm pretty sure my biological age is better than my chronological age, is younger. Now, that doesn't mean better, is younger than my chronological age, which is an indication of good health, right? Of better than a health of a person your age, right? So now, if it comes back and says I'm 85, the biological age, I don't even think I'm going to share that with you, but I don't think it's going to be that way. So
we'll find out. Corolla will tell us.
Yeah, she will. She will. Yeah.
Do you know The Far Side, the cartoon?
Yeah.
The Far Side? Yeah. Well, when you were describing that to me, I had this flash of a Far Side comic. And I imagine it shows an office, and in the front of the office, there's all these guys in lab coats and microscopes and things. And your spit sample shows up, and of course they take that, all these doctors and things, and they take it to the back room, and there's a Swami sitting there, and he holds it up and he says, 45.
Nice.
Because I'm thinking they age his spit. That's but I mean, of course, your DNA materials in there. I know the science behind it, but that's the weird image that just popped in my head.
It's a good one, Scott. That's a gooder.
Yeah, well, if life's not fun, what's the point, right?
Exactly.
Okay, going back, and your story is perfect. That was like the end of our show, at the beginning of our show. Arthritis is nasty. No question. And I've got some arthritis from injury. I've got weight obviously contributes to it, and it's not fun. And I know people that suffer far more than I do. And but every indication is that even with the worst kinds of arthritis, you can find relief, and it can be walked back in a lot of cases. And we're going to talk about how that we're going to explore what arthritis is and the variations in that, because it's pretty misunderstood and it's often misdiagnosed. And that was another good point about your story, is everyone assumes if they have joint pain, I have arthritis. They don't go talk to their doctor, or their doctor says, yeah, I'm busy, you've got arthritis, and carries on. It's not that simple. If you've got a lot of pain in your joints, it could be quite a few things, actually. And it's worth, like you said in our last show, get tested. Don't just assume, my shoulders hurt and it rains and my knee hurts, that's arthritis. Don't assume that. Anytime you've got severe pain, or even pain, one of my care nurses said that to me. She said, yeah, I'm a firm believer, if it hurts, see a doctor. We're not designed to hurt. Like, our natural state is not pain. So right. And that's pretty true. But a lot of people either don't get diagnosed or get misdiagnosed, where they don't actually go get a test. They just say, I've got the arthritis. And that can become problematic, because some of the treatments that people try for arthritis are not really good for you, and can actually make the problem worse. So as always, at age 3, we said, get checked.
Well, I also know, like, some of the treatments are extremely expensive, right? Some of the medications for our clients who have arthritis are like $30,000 a year, right? Like, it's a big chunk of coin, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit off topic, but hey, Pooja's talk yesterday on your Caring Employees Healthy Teams was great. Some of those benefits are amazing. Check that video out, listeners, if you're on there.
Yes, it was good. I really enjoyed her conversation and her eagerness to make things happen for our clients. I think that's beautiful. So, yeah.
But the point is $30,000. Who can afford that? Right? Seriously, on top of all our other expenses and bills, probably you're not at a job working if you can cash out $30,000 for knee pain. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a year. That's not one and done. That's forever, right?
Exactly.
Most of the treatments are stopgap. Right? And we're going to talk about that, because, in doing the research, they have backed up a little bit. A lot of doctors, they used to say, yeah, knee replacement, no big deal, we can do that. My grandma had her hip replaced 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. And she was only 87, 88. So, and the last time was really hard on her. I thought she was going to pass away. She was really weak from it and things. You probably know, but hip replacement is a brutal surgery. They hit with a mallet and stuff. Like, it's not at all nice.
Well, I've heard that as well. And I talked recently, within the last month, to a friend, her name's Debbie, who had her hips, both hips done at the same time, both
Wow.
hips. And I said, "Oh man, you must have been in bed for like 2 months." And she said, "Nope." The next day, they got me out to walk over and go to the bathroom by
Wow.
myself. I said, "What?" And then now it's been like 2 months since it happened, and she's walking like you wouldn't know, like she's not.
Wow.
There's no limping. There's no, a nice normal gait kind
Good
of a
thing.
thing, pain free, and so amazing. Yeah.
That is amazing. When we were in Japan, it was always hard to find English TV shows, right? I know I should have been watching in Japanese, but sometimes you just want to hear your own language. And the one channel we could get was this weird live operation channel. And
Whew.
so it was out of the US, and it was a teaching hospital, and you could watch operations live. And one day there was this hip replacement surgery going on. I was like, I thought I'd stumbled onto like a horror channel, and
Oh.
they're like sawing and pounding, and I'm like, no, this is a joke. I checked the channel like 3 times to make sure I wasn't on some crazy fantasy. It was legit. So I mean, that would have been 10 years ago. So obviously things have gotten better, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was really brutal. Anyway, back to arthritis. So there's 5 main types, right? And there's more, but the 5 main types, and I have pronunciation issues. I've checked like 3 times to try and get it right. The 2 big ones are osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Those are the ones most people maybe hear about. Gout, which used to be considered in the Middle Ages, it was really serious. And there's a great illustration in a medical book that shows a little sharp-toothed demon biting a guy's toe, and
Hmm.
their imagery to go with gout. And yeah, I've had a gout attack, and it's just like that. Fibro.
I have as well. I've had
Have
gout
you?
as
You
well.
know?
Oh,
Yeah.
it is painful like crazy. My goodness, it's horrible. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the pictures under a microscope what the uric crystals look like?
No,
They're
no.
like razor blades. There's a reason that hurts. Those little crystals.
Mm.
Gout is caused by a concentration of uric acid, too much in your blood or kidneys, liver. What takes uric acid out? Anyway, something's not working right, or there's too much of it. If you eat fish, you can be skinny and healthy, and if you eat too much of certain kinds of foods, you can have a gout attack.
Well,
It
I was told when I had gout, my doctor said, "Oh, what have you been doing lately?" And I had gone to this thing in Scottsdale where
Yep.
we'd ate like tons of beef and drank like
And me.
a lot of alcohol. And so I said, "Oh, well, I was away in Scottsdale and we were having fun drinking and eating, blah, blah." Said, "Yep, there's your gout. That's the issue. Like this is what you eat is going to cause this. That's how it works." So I said, "Oh,
It
okay."
used to be known as a rich man's disease. In the
Yes.
Middle Ages, that's what it was, because they were the only, it was associated, well, red meats and alcohol are both things that contribute or can trigger uric acid buildup, right? So
Yes.
yeah, it wasn't maybe the fun you were having that did it. It was just the quantities of the red
Yes.
meats and the
I
alcohol.
I think I was probably less than moderate in my consumption is what I would suggest to you. So,
Yeah. But gout isn't always, and I guess that was sort of my point. It's been historically known as like, in medieval pictures, it was, the big, heavy, fat priest always had gout, right? The rich bishop, that kind of thing. But it's not necessarily true. People,
now
you
you
can
said
be
wait a minute, Scott. You said 5, you named 3: osteoarthritis,
yep,
rheumatoid arthritis, gout.
gout,
What were the other 2?
fibromyalgia.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Fibromyalgia.
Yeah, that's a type of arthritis largely misunderstood until about 20 years ago. People didn't think it was real,
Hmm.
or it was sort of tied up with that whole chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. A lot of people were suddenly being diagnosed with it. There was a lot of pushback on that because the people who have it suffer a lot, but it's not something you can visibly see on another person, right? And it can,
Right.
there's a lot of complications with fibromyalgia. So yeah, and then childhood arthritis, which
Mm.
is that group that we mentioned there. So those can kind of then get broken down into some subsets, and this is where I have problems with pronunciation. Ankylosing spondylitis is another type, a specific type.
Yeah.
Ankylosing spondylitis. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis, that's specifically for juveniles or children. The next one is kind of a bad one, and it's unique, and it's psoriatic.
Psoriatic.
Psoriatic. Thank you. Yeah.
Like
When I hear it,
psoriasis, psoriatic, right? So
yes, and that's exactly right, because it has a skin component. It shows up sometimes as a skin rash and joint and pains, bone and joint
yeah.
pain. And that's unique. There's reactive arthritis and then septic arthritis. Those are the 5 main types, and then there's those subsets, and there's more, but that's pretty much the roster of arthritis.
Nice.
Disease.
Okay.
Osteoarthritis is the most common arthritis.
Right.
Some people call it degenerative joint disease, wear and tear arthritis, everyday arthritis, lots of.
And so osteo means bone, right? So it's basically arthritis that is whatever embedded or found in the bone itself. Is that am I reading that correct?
Yeah, you read the Latin or maybe Greek well, but what it is the cartilage on the end of the bone physically erodes. Like and it can be from an injury, and that's why I have football injuries on my ankles, and so the bones didn't end up healing back in the right place, and so they've been wearing for 30 years, just ordinary walking. And so they did x-rays, and they said, well, this side has more cartilage than this side, and eventually the bones are going to touch, and boy, that's going to hurt. And so it's when the cartilage that protects the bones when they're touching. Well, there's fluid in there too, but it stops the bone on bone situation from happening.
I took a course once, and they were talking about that when the cartilage is gone and you're on bone. But one thing that's I thought amazing, they said that if a person just continues to move and walk and and move their body, kind of a thing, the bones actually kind of grind together and smooth out, so you can still function relatively pain-free, even though the cartilage is all gone, right? Because the bones get a nice smooth surface to move against, kind of a thing. Hey,
I studied medieval death in the medieval world when I was in Cambridge, and one of the really interesting things was archaeological medicine. One of the professors that I studied under there was a specialist in archaeological medicine, and the skeleton remains of poorer class people. They didn't used to study them; it was always rich people. But in the last few decades, we started to concern ourselves with the common people, and they, exactly as you said, they'll find bones fused together for years, decades, and the people are still functioning, still working. A good hard life, not like up until the point they pass away. And so he had some amazing slides of, like you said, bones rubbed perfectly. And when they first found the remains, they thought maybe they'd been polished or interfered with in some way. But yeah, no, our bodies are pretty amazing stuff. And it's like back pain. Our vertebrae fuse together as a way to protect our spine if the discs are herniated or whatever happens there.
Our bodies are really amazing. I mean, like with all the functions they do, 50 trillion cells, 500 trillion viruses and bacteria and nematodes and all the other little critters that are crawling all over our body and in our body. And all of that works together to make like crazy amounts of like new cells, 1 million every minute or something. And your bone marrow is just like shooting out new cells as other ones are dying. And what an incredible process, right? So, I mean, the only things we're really aware of is the beautiful rhythm in our chest and the gift of breath that comes to us every few seconds. Those are the things that we're kind of conscious of, but there's so many things that are happening in our body that are just like miraculous, that it does so many things. It's incredible.
Life in any form is amazing. And I mean, that's new agey sounding, but ever since I was a kid, I've been amazed by the animal world and the plant world. And then as I got older, I started to become more interested in more things than the reproduction of the human species. which
When you're
means,
younger, you were just thinking about reproduction. Is that what you're
yeah,
suggesting?
that's what I'm hinting at there.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you start thinking about things like, walking, seeing far away, things
I
like.
understand. Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing. Like you say, it's a miracle. Life is just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder, this is a completely aside, but I wonder about things that where there such a place where there is no life? Like we used to believe that, at one time there's only life on Earth, and then we learned that microbes can live on asteroids and that, microenvironments, and then we started to say, well, we've only been looking for carbon-based life, which is all life on Earth that we know of. What if there's non-carbon-based life? And you start to wonder what's out there, right? Is there like the void we used to think of as having nothing, but we know that's not true. There's lots going on in voids, right? So yeah, interesting stuff. Anyway, getting back to arthritis. So as you correctly pointed out, osteoarthritis is to do with the bones. It's to do with the cartilage of the bones, usually wear and tear or some kind of mechanical damage to your joints. The other one, and this is maybe, I don't want to say worse, because if you've got osteoarthritis quite badly, and recently Fleur's been suffering a bit from it and went to the doctor. It took her a year to get in to see a specialist, actually.
Whew.
Yeah, she was in there for like 20 minutes. It took her
Oh
a
my
year.
good.
Yeah, anyway, we'll talk about what he said later in the show. So the next big one is rheumatoid arthritis, and doctors consider it among the most painful things that, chronic things that can happen to us. It not only affects the joints, it can affect surrounding tissue. It can affect organs, which I didn't know. I knew about tissue, but I didn't know that it can actually interfere with or cause damage to organs, because the root of rheumatoid arthritis is our own immune system. It's an autoimmune system problem. Maybe problem's not the right word, but our autoimmune system attacks cells in the joint fluid usually, or hands, wrists, knuckles, knees, those kind of things is usually where that is. And this is in some ways the most severe, but also the one that we have a lot of control over. And that's sort of the theme of tonight's show, because as you know, we don't deal in problems, we deal in solutions, right?
Cool. All about solutions, Scott. All about it.
Yeah. So rheumatoid arthritis is swelling. It's caused again by your autoimmune system attacking our normal healthy cells, but it can be triggered. And you're talking about how getting up and walking bone on bone, that's one of the common that's one of the common treatments recommendations for osteoarthritis is movement, to keep the joints moving, to keep that healthiness. With rheumatoid arthritis, what the big thing there is, often it can be triggered, and so the pain isn't constant always, where with osteoarthritis it can be quite constant because it's a physical change to the structure of our bodies. But with rheumatoid arthritis, what we eat, as you said, and gout's related to rheumatoid arthritis. I don't know if medically they're in a line in the same family, but again, the same thing. But what that means is, because it gets triggered, we can also avoid those triggers, right? And we can avoid them to the point that we avoid permanent damage to those joints and surrounding tissue and surrounding organs. And recently, there's been a lot of research, a lot more faith, credence, medical acceptance of the idea that non-medical treatment can be critical in slowing, stopping, and in some cases even reversing rheumatoid arthritis, which sounds like what you went through.
It does sound like that. And I don't know if I had arthritis. I just know I had pain in the joints, right? So, yeah.
So the ways they treat rheumatoid arthritis is non-sterile anti-inflammatory drugs, right? NSAIDs, is that right? Yeah. So lots of them, some of them available over the counter, ibuprofen. Another one that I don't know, maybe it's not a brand name here, naproxen. Do you know it? Naproxen?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Or Celebrex is
Yeah,
another one.
that one I'm familiar with. Yeah.
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 But Celebrex is prescription, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The prescription I have for gout, I'm looking for a bottle here, but it's related to a drug that we give to horses sometimes when they have navicular problems with their navicular bone, which is in their hoof, for older performance horses that are suffering. You can't, it's illegal to give it to a performing horse, but often, though lots of us, like your wife, consider them athletes, so we take care of them like retired athletes and champions when they're done performing. And if they've worked really hard, and if they're really passionate about what they do, they often suffer wear and tear on their bodies, and responsible caring people look after them, right?
Hey, on that thought, Scott, not today, obviously, but another episode, we might want to talk about PEFM blankets or PEFM devices. So it's a pulse electromagnetic frequency, blah, blah, blah wave. And like you put it on and it's supposed to have all these healing properties. So Corolla with her horses is using it. She's thinking of that she needs it for herself as well, but right now she's using it for her horses because she's got some that are performance horses who have issues, get where they could tend to be colicky, that kind of a thing. And the idea is using that, it keeps them in better health and keeps them functioning better. And I'm not exactly, she's done a lot of research on it. She would be a good guest to have to tell what you could do some research, and then we'd have a show and compare her research with what your research is. So, because she's pretty enthused about these, the healing properties of these devices that basically generate an electromagnetic field, whether it's a steady field or a pulsing field into your body. And kind of, it has different Gauss, I think, is the measurement they use in terms of how powerful that is, kind of a thing, and how deep it goes in your body. So, yeah.
Our friend Tesla was really big on the effects of electricity and magnetism on the human body.
Was he?
The man, Nikola Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla. I did not know that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. There's some apocrypha texts that some people say that he didn't write, some people say he did write, that are about, we're not sure what they're about. They're almost mystical, but he was a pretty weird dude, a genius, but definitely a different kind of cat, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. If you ever get a chance, look up Tesla on magnetism and the effects on the human body of electrical impulse.
Now I'm gonna.
Yeah. I know, you got it right. So I'm down about doing that show. That sounds really interesting, because people who don't work with performance animals, dogs, horses, all kinds of animals, often think that they're abused, right? But those of us that, I don't do it now, but I used to do it professionally for a lot of years. My family did for 2 or 3 generations. They're like our kids. Like, if they get hurt, we're not pumping them full of drugs and sending them out there to work anymore. No way. We're like taking care of them. We make sure they've got care and bedding. And
I would suggest to you, horse crazy people like you and Corolla will take better care of their horses than they will of their own bodies. Would you agree with
our
that?
own bodies? Absolutely. I thought you were going to say my children, and I'm like,
Yeah, you have no dispute about your own body, that you're going to treat the horse nicer, you're going to treat you. So yeah.
Well, I was going to say, the stuff that I take for gout when I have a flare-up is in the family of prednisolone, which we give to horses for joint problems when they get older, or when they've been injured. Or obviously you can't give it to a performing horse, because performance animals are like athletes. You can't drug them and send them out to compete. Right. But it's the same family. And if there was one shot to give an aching horse or me, I would give it to the horse. No question. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Dog too. Cat, maybe. Orangutan for sure. They're pretty cute. Anyway, so yeah. NSAIDs are like first off the list. The problem with those is they can cause higher risk for heart attack, higher risk for stroke, Also can raise your blood pressure. You know about all of this stuff better than I do.
Well, I'm
Stomach,
familiar with that. Yeah, yeah.
stomach
But let me ask
irritation.
you this as well. I think all drugs beat the heck out of your kidneys. Is that correct? Like every medication that you take
Well,
has
yeah.
has a negative effect on your kidneys?
Well, some, and I'm okay. This goes back to our conversation about how much vitamin C I take, and there's different types, and some are water soluble and some are oil soluble, and some of them. And I'm not a doctor, and neither is Al, as we've said many times before. Don't believe anything we say. Look it up. Ask a professional. But some of them actually damage your liver. Most
Oh,
damage your kidney. Sorry.
most damage your kidneys, but some damage your liver. Is that what you were saying?
Some medications can affect your liver adversely.
Okay. Okay.
Your liver
Which
filters
one?
things
What is
out.
your liver? Which one? Your kidney is with to do with
Processes
your
urine,
urine, and your
right?
liver is to do with your blood. No.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
Cool.
something to do with, and I could be wrong, but something to do with oil, water, like it's how our body absorbs them, whatever the chemical is. An interesting, I found out, like I'm an insomniac, right? You know, I sleep like 4 hours a day. And I've get treated for that. And we've tried all sorts of medication, don't work. But when I started to lose a lot of weight, I found myself really dopey and dizzy. And, you know, at first the doc's like, oh, yeah, you're just losing weight. You're just low calories. Don't worry about it. You know, you're supposed to be taking in some crazy amount of calories just to keep alive at your weight, but you're not. So your body's, you know, saying, oh, I'm faint, I'm weak. Till I went to see a specialist. And he's like, well, no, actually what's happening is a lot of those drugs are fat soluble and they get stored in your fat cells. So when you're radically losing weight, the fat cells are destructing and they're releasing that minute amount of the chemical. But in your case, because you're losing so much weight in a rapid period, it's releasing all of that stuff quickly. And basically, it's like you taking another dose of, you know, Adderall or whatever it is, you know, they were trying to do.
Interesting. So it's basically freeing that drug that's stored in your fat because you're losing weight, and then that goes into your bloodstream, and it's like you're
Yeah,
getting.
that's
Yeah.
what he said. And I've heard other people say not only that, but when you have extra weight and this is one of the dangers of losing weight quickly, is that there's also your body fat stores toxins and things that it doesn't know what to do with, and you know, it tries to pass them out of your body. But if it really, and we were talking about this with, you know, a lot of the chemicals and things that get added into food, often your body says, I'm just going to lock this up in a fat cell. We'll deal with it later, right? Maybe
Mhm.
it's good for us. I don't know. I mean, I'm oversimplifying. But then
Yep.
when you lose that weight, then your kidneys or your liver or your brain or whatever has to deal with that stuff going through again. That's why drinking water is so important when you're losing weight or fasting or any kind of dieting.
Yeah. Cool.
Help
Cool.
flush all that out. Anyway, so yeah, NSAIDs are good, but they can have a lot of side effects. And people like me can't take them. I can't take, even though I do, I have to make sure that conditions are right and I've eaten and all sorts of things because they upset my stomach.
Yes. Yeah.
My father, same problem. He was down to about a quarter of his stomach. He had 3 or 4 operations to remove chunks of his stomach because of ulcers. And yeah, amazing. But you know what's really interesting is that you can exist with a tiny little bit of your stomach left and your stomach will stretch again. That's why bariatric surgeries aren't always successful or successful in a shorter period of time, because our bodies say, oh, we need that. We'll just stretch it out. It's like our skin.
Interesting. I did not know that. Huh.
I found that out the hard way, I guess.
Yeah. You had that from,
DMARDs. Sorry.
I'm just saying from practical experience, you found that out from your
Yeah,
experience in life.
from
Yeah.
you know, losing weight and stuff. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that go on. We should do that too. So we should talk about weight loss, because I've experienced like went 620 pounds and then lost 280 pounds or something. Still
Yeah.
going down, right? And my average weight loss during the summer is about between 3 to 5 pounds a week the last 2 years. Winter, I kind of my body kind of goes into hibernation, but I don't know. Anyway, we'll say that for another show. So the next set of drugs I've never heard of, and they're number 2 on this list. So DMARDs, do you know what that is, Alan?
DMARDs?
Yeah.
Nope.
Disease modifying antiemetic drugs.
Okay.
They curb your immune system to help slow rheumatoid arthritis and keep it from getting worse. So it's a class of drugs that retards our autoimmune system.
Right. Nice. And makes sense, right? Because anything, those type of diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, where it's basically your body attacking your body, right?
Yeah.
Your immune system is like over vigilant and is attacking healthy cells is what's happening, right?
Yeah. It's like cancer. Cancer is not really a disease. It's our bodies doing what they should do, just out of control, right? Like
there's the way I think I've probably shared this with you before, but Dr. Zach Bush, who I think is brilliant, he says that cancer basically starts with one cell that doesn't realize it's connected to this other 50 trillion cells, and it should just have its aposis and die, like aposis, and then be reabsorbed. But instead, it's damaged, doesn't recognize the other 50 trillion cells, and just starts doing its own thing. And that's what ultimately, over 7 years or 10 years or 17 years, a tumor develops because of that the way it functions, right? So,
but that thing it's doing is natural.
yeah.
It's not out, like it's not an alien thing in our bodies like a virus.
No.
Yeah, it's our bodies doing like a
What it's
cell.
supposed to do, yeah. It's healthy cells are supposed to reproduce, and unhealthy cells, or cells that have had their life, are supposed to pass away and just kind of be reabsorbed. So that's the part, the cell division and creating new cells is natural, but it's also supposed to stop if the cell is no longer functional, is no longer going to contribute to the well-being of that body, right? So
I want to take us on a little journey that a little off topic, but you just made me think of it. Literally in literature, we've dealt with for forever almost about immortality and how immortality is wrong, and how humans who get immortality by some gift or intervention by God or a demon or something, how they actually like it at first and then they suffer because we're not meant to live forever. And it's just interesting when you're talking about cells, how now we know that our cells are not meant to live forever. They go through a process of, growth and middle stage, and then they die naturally. And if they don't die, then that causes problems for the whole organism. And I just found it very interesting that that's a theme that we've been dealing with before we had any understanding of cellular medicine or really how our bodies think. Very psychological, ephemeral topic about immortality, but there's a very real example inside of us every day. If we didn't have cells dying inside of us every day, we die, right?
yeah.
Like the organism becomes sick. Anyway, interesting. So going back to DMARDs, this is a second class of drugs used for mostly, I think, exclusively maybe, rheumatoid arthritis. Some of the brand names are Trexol. Apparently that's a big one. Hydrochloroquine. You know that one?
I've heard that one before. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can take them as a pill, but most often they're given as an injection. Apparently they work that way, and it takes a few weeks or a month to work. It has to build up in the system, and then it takes effect. The problem is that anytime you mess with your autoimmune system, you're lowering your immunity. And so people that are put on treatment for rheumatoid arthritis and take the DMARDs are at higher risk for other things invading them. And because we've retarded our autoimmune system, we can't fight whatever is trying to take over or cause us problems. So there's a lot of side effects, it says, with them. One in particular has a lot of side effects, but it can actually save a joint. And so a joint that's being attacked to the point of destruction, a doctor will make a call often that the side effects and the risk from contracting something from a weakened immune system is worth saving the joint, a knee or an elbow or something like that. So a lot of big questions and decisions. So you shouldn't, from the research I said, all the doctors said, do not take that decision lightly. Like there's risks of taking DMARDs. The next group you and I will be interested in. Okay. They're biologics.
Mm-hmm.
Cool name. You got something to add on biologics?
Well, just that I know that they're basically made from humans or from animals, I should say. It could be animals or humans, that they are basically taking things from living bodies, and so it's a living type of a drug is what it is. That's maybe not the most eloquent way to describe it, but that's basically what it is. That's where
Mhm.
the source of it comes from. It's not synthesized from a plant. It is extracted from humans, processed, and or from animals and processed, and then make that kind of a difference in the body. Yeah.
Some religions are against their use
Mm-hmm.
for that reason,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It depends because there's a lot of factors in it. Like you say, they're from DNA or tissue or whatever, but they can really help. And they're getting into an area now where they genetically engineer these proteins, and so they used to take them directly from animals and other sources, but now they're getting so where they can build them in a lab apparently, and that's eased some of the concerns about using them for treatment, because they're no different than other chemicals we create. Anyway, they block something called TNF, pardon me, which is the chemical in our body which causes inflammation.
Okay.
And so we've identified TNF, and we've also identified biologics that can block that from occurring. Of course, lots of problems, maybe. There's a whole list of biologics, and there's a subgroup called biosimilars. I've never heard that word before. Have you heard that word before?
Yeah, sure have. And that's kind of the more than the ones that have come out now that are more affordable than the biologics. And so there's been a big push for probably 5 years for the biosimilars, so that they're trying to achieve the same effect, but it is a lab synthesized one, and so less likely to have adverse reactions, and hopefully be just as effective, but without the damaging parts of taking the medication, right?
So, did I get that part a bit wrong? So the biologics, my notes say that there's a bit of movement to create them, to engineer those proteins. And in my notes, it also says the biosimilars are exactly as you said. So are we manufacturing biologics, or are those completely natural sources?
I believe that biologics are completely synthesized from or created from animals, humans and animals, whereas the biosimilars are copies of that are made in labs without animal input, like without human or animals being extractions from them to
Yeah,
create them. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I learned something. That's a great clarification. Thanks, Al. And the problem with any of this stuff is there's a ton of information. And if you suffer from any of those things, information overload can be a big problem, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And
And have it on the same theme, do you know about pharmacogenomics? Pharmacogenomics, have you heard
no,
of this
what's
term?
that? Nope.
So it's basically where with some medications that take a long time to get the right mix, right? For especially for depression type issues or mental health type challenges, but also for you had said with this drug might take like a year before it kicks in, right? To start working. So
Right.
pharmacogenomics, there's the
And,
word. It is
uh,
it is basically where you provide a DNA sample, and based on that DNA sample, they can shrink down the possible options and say, this is the medication you should be on based on your DNA.
oh,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, so some insurance companies that I deal with, as an example, will have that as a program. So somebody gets it where, they're in a bad way health-wise or having a failure of health, they can use that testing to save a whole bunch of time and energy and increase the effectiveness of their treatment plan by using that to select the right drug or the right family of drugs that are going to be effective.
That's fantastic. I know when they're treating my pituitary gland, they test, like they give me a dose of something, and then we wait and see, right?
Yeah.
And then we do a bunch of tests, and then we maybe up it or down it or try a different one. And that's gone on now for 3 years. And I've benefited, but sometimes I get sick, or like
Yeah.
the dose makes me sick, or they switch out altogether. So yeah, anything that could improve that, big cost saving and big, well, some of these issues are life threatening, right? So speed is an issue.
Sure.
Um,
Well,
that's
even
it.
just quality of life, right? So
Yeah.
you get the right mix and or the right with what's going to work well in your body, and you have greater mobility, greater mental clarity, greater, all of those things get better. Well, the quality of your life is better, right? So that's a good thing.
Can you run that name by us again?
Pharma Pharmacogenomic. Pharmacogenomic is what the
Well,
term
I'm gonna
is.
look that up when we're done. That's cool. Pretty good to know.
Okay.
Okay, then steroids is the next one they try straight out. They go to hydrocortisone. I remember playing football. I popped a shoulder a few times. Doctor just stuck me with a needle in my shoulder and injected hydrocortisone in there. Pain went away and felt great until the next time some fool stomped on me with a set of cleats. But yeah, but lots of side effects with steroids, right? We've talked about that. So lots of stuff going on there. And then combination therapy, where they try, like you said, different ones to see what's going on. And then the last one is surgery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or injections. They're sort of that. And when Fleur went to the specialist, that's what he recommended to her. He said that, you're losing fluid between the joints. We take a needle, we inject this special fluid in there, and you'll be good for some time. We don't know how long, but you'll get relief, and it's not invasive as much as replacing a knee or something like that. Do you have experience with those or know about more details about that?
Synvisc, I think, is one of the most common ones, I believe, is called. I think that's the most common one. And I think there's actually like prolotherapy is sort of related to the same thing. Or so those are the two that I've heard that are ones that people will use in order to alleviate on joint pain and maintain their mobility, kind of a thing, right? And it's just like get a shot every once in a while of that, and then you have great movement and no pain, and then after a while it wears off and you need to get another one and sort of keep on functioning, right? So
yeah, I think he told Fleur it was like $400 treatment.
Yeah.
Over and above any coverage that
Yeah.
they may or may not have. So that's an expensive option, but it beats the pain. Exercise, joint pain, or exercise and rehabilitation are another one that can help a lot of people, especially early, right? Before they start to deteriorate the bones. And then natural treatments, heat and cold, relaxation, more sleep, the stuff that's in hot peppers,
Oh, like
the other
cayenne?
name.
Cayenne?
No. Capsaicin.
Capsaicin? Okay.
It's what
All
the
right.
Japanese call. They call them pima, but they're also called I don't know, Capsaicin.
Okay.
I don't know. I can pronounce
All
it
right.
before.
Cool.
But anyway, taking that can help. It's in hot peppers. Acupuncture. I personally am a big proponent of acupuncture. When I was in Asia, we didn't have access. A lot of drugs that we can get prescribed or over the counter here, not available, even by prescription. And acupuncture, got into it there, and boy, everything I went to could be fixed there. It was pretty amazing stuff.
Have you gone to an acupuncturist here?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I have too. Last fall, when I damaged my shoulder, then acupuncturist Dr. Lee was very, very helpful in getting the pain away. So he was, and like it was 5 treatments or something. It was pretty quick that he was able to get results that I couldn't achieve on my own or with other medical professionals. So
I was pretty impressed. So the needles in China are thicker than Japan. Japanese people don't like pain a lot, even though they are great at persevering through things. The needles are a little bit thinner in Japan. So when I came back here, they were using Chinese needles. So it was like, oh, that's kind of different. And in Japan, they put electricity to them often, almost always, which they didn't do here. Maybe my practitioner here. One big area, and I'm watching our time because I need 10 minutes to finish this up here. But one big thing that's going on, and Pooja talked about it too a little bit in her talk, is cognitive therapy. And so
Mhm.
a lot of things like arthritis and a lot of chronic pain, the big problem is not the pain, it's living with the pain, causing depression. It can lead to suicide, even people living with chronic pain. And now a lot of doctors and insurance companies, from listening to some of the people that work with you, are starting to realize that cognitive therapy, helping people mentally learn to live with those conditions, are really beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah,
You-
definitely. Yeah, no question.
Okay, but natural treatments, the last natural treatment, and this is the one that I've been saving for you. And I want to talk about this because I want to state for the record, I am not a vegan. I like my meats. I grew up on a beef ranch. I ate beef 4 times a day growing up. Like, that was it. If there wasn't beef on the table, somebody was angry. Like, you can have your pork, you can have your chicken, but there better be beef somewhere there. So this is not from a vegan. Al's a vegan. You guys know that. Uh, this cat here, Street Panda, is not. I eat meat. I like it red and I like it raw. But there's been a big amount of research. There's an article by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine,
Yeah.
and their captain, you know them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And food plays a substantial role in arthritis. Full stop. Yeah.
Yeah. That
And
that doctor, the doctor, what's his name, from Physician of Responsible Medicine? What's his name again?
I'm looking at his picture here. Neil Barnard. Is that the
Yes,
guy?
Dr. Neil Barnard. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I don't know if you know his story, but he
No.
grew up on like a dairy farm, a cattle farm,
Like me,
and
yeah, sweet and
like
berry before it was
like
beef.
you, and every day was bacon and eggs and a big thing of milk and toast with butter, and that's
Yeah.
what he ate, right?
Hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah. And then he goes to medical school, and then he starts like doing all this research and figuring out this connection. And his mother later on was complaining about arthritis type problems that she was having, right? And joint pain, all this kind of stuff. And then her doctor suggested to her that, well, she might want to try eating on a plant-based type diet. And so then the mom says to the son, "Oh my goodness, my doctor said I should do this." And, "Mom, I've been telling you this for like 30 years. Like, thank you for finally coming around." But yes. And so she started eating plant-based, and without knowing it, the dad also ate plant-based because the mom made all the food. So she
Right.
would
Yeah.
eat plant-based, and he was getting benefits and feeling better, even though he had no idea what he changed in his life, right? Because the food was still good as far as he was concerned. But the China study is an amazing, amazing research project that it was like 30 years and like 50,000 people. And
Crazy.
they had a really, really direct connection with animal protein and arthritis, animal protein and heart disease, animal protein and everything like cancer, animal protein and dementia. Like, there was really, really strong. And the things that Dr. Michael Clapper talks about is that our standard diet, where we have so much animal protein, creates what's called TMAO. And TMAO is like battery acid on joints kind of a thing. It just like causes all kinds of pain and damage and degradation of that, right? And in your gut, it makes the permeability of your blood vessels too loose, if you will. And so things are entering your bloodstream that shouldn't be entering your bloodstream, because now it's not tight joints anymore, kind of a thing, right? And then you have a flow of waste products and TMAO that is impacting negatively your joints, right? So yeah,
Is that called, the blood gas barrier? What's that called? We've
I'm
found out that there's a lot of things, both natural and man-made, that we take as supplements or additives to our food that, like you said, loosens that up, and stuff that shouldn't be passing through there. It's our body's natural way of saying this belongs here, that belongs there. Never shall the two meet. They're
right.
meeting.
Yeah.
And that's, doctors are concerned about what that's causing. But
Yeah.
going back to Dr. Baynard, so like I said, Fleur's they want to stick fluid in her joints, and I've been suffering mostly probably due to my weight and a lot of football and horse riding and cattle crunching them crunching me, not the other way around, injuries as a kid. And Dr. Barnard,
Bernard.
yeah, that, they recommend something called the 4-week anti-arthritis diet. Do you know about that? Yeah.
Well, I know that he is just like such a strong advocate for plant-based type things. They have changed like, I don't know, 65 hospitals to change their menus that they feed their patients specifically on that grounds. Here's the nutrition here's the nutrition science, the facts. Here's what it is. So why would you feed these type of products to somebody who is already suffering this pain, and you're just exacerbating this pain, right? And you're causing in a huge influence or increase in inflammation, and the inflammation causes so much damage, right? So yeah, I that doesn't surprise me. And he's not the only one. Like Dr. Michael Clapper would be another one. Dr. What's his name again? There's like 10 doctors that that have been like heart surgeons and that kind of stuff. And after a while just said, wait a minute, like let's change this and let's make a difference here. Even there's one, I watched this, it was amazing. They had blood that they had something to watch the blood vessels in the blood,
yeah.
whatever diagnostic tool that was. Anyways, and you could see the blood flowing through the blood vessel, that kind of thing. And then while they're doing this, while they're filming this, the guy eats like a cheeseburger and a milkshake kind of a thing, right? And then you can see the blood, it just like, it clumps, it doesn't move smooth. It's like all, yeah, just like immediately, like within 30 seconds of him putting this stuff in his mouth, then that's what starts happening in his bloodstream, right? So, yeah.
And okay, so to our viewers, this is not a crusade. Al and I are, I love Al, but him and I, when we eat, he's got to have his food, I got to have my food. We still enjoy a good time together. But we're going to try this 4-week thing because they've done all kinds of tests, thousands of arthritis patients. 4 weeks, it can change your health in 4 weeks. So
well, Scott, well, I agree, and I think it will. And I don't know if I told you this before, but when before I tried a plant-based type of a food or meals, I was eating, my normal lunch was like 2 double cheeseburgers, and I'd eat them in the car while I'm driving. That was my normal lunch, right? And then when I tried the engine number 3 diet, had a 30-day, you can just try eating plant-based for 30 days, and they gave you a menu each day, right? And made it real simple to do. And so I committed that I was going to try it 30 days, mostly because the guy who wrote that book is this like 6'4" Texas firefighter triathlete, just like this rock of a man, just like this solid mass of muscle. And he's a plant-based guy. And I said, oh my goodness. All right. Because in my mind, I'm thinking somebody who's like 80 pounds in New York City or something in a window blown. Yeah. But this guy, very, very robust health, very strong, very active man. And he's doing this plant-based type thing. So I did 2 weeks. And at 2 weeks, I noticed my joint pain, like just going away. Joint pain in my elbows, joint pain in my knees, joint pain in my shoulders, was just like dissolving. And the other thing that I noticed is my mood increased. It elevated my mental health. It elevated my mental health, my thought process. I became more positive only after 2 weeks. So I expect big things for you after 4 weeks, my friend.
It's really simple. His 4-week anti-arthritis diet, and I'm reading it now because I don't want to get it wrong. This is all you have to do for 4 weeks. Okay, there's a little list, and as soon as we're done the show, I'm going to post it right under our little video thing on Facebook.
When is the Sweetman clan starting this?
Well, I haven't discussed this with She Who Must Be Obeyed, so this is just my plan at the point, but we'll see. Okay, so for 4 weeks, this is what you got to do. Enjoy abundance of foods that are on the pain safe list. Okay, and the pain safe foods are rice, cooked green vegetables, cooked orange vegetables, cooked yellow vegetables, cooked or dried non-citrus fruits. That's a lot of stuff. Like I can't think of another color of vegetable. Can you? I mean, no, purple. Purple's not on here because purple stuff is usually part of the nightshade family. which is a no-no, right? Okay, for joint pain anyway. Okay, so you can enjoy as much as you want of that stuff. Avoid common triggers completely. Common triggers are really, those are the easy ones, right? Certain drinks with additives, alcoholic beverages, caffeinated drinks, and look into green tea if you're there's types of green tea with almost no caffeine in them. Monosodium glutamate, aspartame, natural sweet, and nitrates. Nitrates are bad. And then the dirty dozen, he calls them: dairy, chocolates, eggs, citrus fruits, meat, wheat, nuts, peanuts, tomatoes, onions, corn, apples, and bananas. Those are common triggers. Eggs are something I eat a lot of just because they're supposed to be healthy for you and they're a protein. And when I was sick, they made me promise to stay on a crazy high amount of protein, and like 72 grams a day or something. Really
Doctor,
high.
I think Dr. Bernard would say there's only two things wrong with eggs, and it's the yolk and the whites. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's what he would say. Yes.
So I'll obviously have to cut back on those because you avoid those, okay? And then foods that are not on the list can be eaten freely. It says 4 weeks, guaranteed. And they have like thousands of patients have tried this in real academic studies, not just him saying, "Oh, my patients found." No, this is like real people taking tests, filling out data.
You know what I could tell you? That diet that he says in 4 weeks is going to like markedly knock back the effects of arthritis or eliminate it. There's other doctors that'll tell you that same diet, those same consumption would eliminate cancer, would eliminate heart disease, would just a very, very similar format as that. You can find doctors that will tell you that who've had, years of experience in doing it and trying it. Right. So
I just looked, and a 2015 study found that people eating a whole food, plant-based diet significantly decreased their osteoarthritis pain in 2 weeks, like you said.
2 weeks.
Doesn't take 2 weeks of that can help you.
Scott, I'm so optimistic for your health and Fleur's health go forward. I think there's going to make a big difference trying this. I hope you stick it out for the whole 30 days.
That's only 4 weeks. Yeah,
it's only 4 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, 4 months I had a tube in my stomach feeding me, man. I can live on anything if I got a month. What's that? But seriously, folks, we're going to try it. Even if you're a big meat eater like me, give it a try, because there was a quote that I read once, and there's all kinds of crazy lose weight quotes, but this one said, are there really any foods that taste good enough to die for?
That's a good question, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Bacon could be up there. I don't know. But
you know what I could tell you? I haven't ate meat now in 10 years. I don't miss it at all. Like I don't. Like, so you'd think, because your taste buds change too, right? Your taste buds change in 8 days, I believe it is. It's like really quick, right? And so after you get that, you start eating, mushrooms and beans and rice and quinoa and berries and fruits and veggies way more, then that's what this is what I need. Vinegar, as of late, I've been having a hankering for vinegar. So I'll just slice a tomato up and put balsamic vinegar on it. And it's just that's delicious. And so I'm trying to listen to what my body's telling me that it needs, and then choose that is what I'm trying to do. So
and I think that's great advice. And I think that's a great place to end tonight. But yeah, folks, give it a try. Life really is up to you. How you live your life so much depends on the choices you make, and just being authentic and exploring what fixes you and what makes you feel good, right?
And brother, if you need some encouragement, you call me. If there's a piece of steak that's calling your name during this next 4 weeks, call me. I'll talk you off the ledge.
Thanks, brother. And it's interesting because after they started giving me these treatments for my pituitary gland, I can't stand the smell of cooking pork. Can't eat pork. Not at all. I, like you said, changed my taste like that. Can't pass. I'd rather starve than eat pork. And I can't explain why. you know, just one
Well,
of those changes. So
yeah, I know
yeah,
that pork when it's cooking, oh, it smells horrible to me. It's like
me too.
urine it smells like. So, yeah.
Awful stuff. Well, hey, you know what? I was trying to surprise you, but you knew all about it anyway already, brother. So you surprised me, laid some knowledge down on me. So that's great. So we're gonna try it. I won't. I may have to sneak a little red meat in there. I may. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm your resource if you need me. Okay.
You may have to cook. I may call you up and say, Al, I haven't eaten in 4 days. Help me. So, from my dear friend, the acapellist, Mr. Alan Friesen, and myself, Scott Sweetman, thanks for joining us tonight on H3. Be well, be happy, and full of hope. Take care, everyone.
Get a Matson.